Evening, everyone. It's me again. I know I'm a bit later than normal. And the reason I'm late, funny enough, is because what I wanted to talk to you about has actually evolved through the day. I'm a little bit late because I was trying to get straight in my head, going from one topic to another, but I'm pretty sure that this is the right thing. I've got a few things written on the board. My main topic tonight is to talk to you about self-forgiveness. And I want to talk to you about this because it has been such a theme lately. It has come up with so many of the clients that I have worked with. And I think it's related to the fact that I've been working with a lot of narcissistic abuse. And the problems that people have is that they blame themselves. How could I have been so stupid? How did I let that happen to me? How did I let that happen to me 2 or 3 times? You know, and they just and they realize as we're going through our healing process that a lot of the anger that they feel isn't actually even towards the other person. It's to do with themselves, because it is true that someone can only treat you in a way that you let them. But in saying that, it's not that simple. So I'm just going to talk you through a process here and show you how you can work on forgiving yourself and how this is so important. And actually, wanting to talk about this came from a phrase. It's linked to my training yesterday as well. I came across this phrase: the outcome of anything and everything depends on who you become. And I thought, wow, that's just so succinct. That just about sums everything up. And I guess it really struck me because of the training that I did yesterday and my own experience in the last few days of having this shift of working from one thing that I thought was having a huge goal, and then suddenly having a mentor come alongside me and totally shift that to an even bigger goal that was terrifying. But immediately my mind started to work on taking me towards that goal. I see you like that, because you can take this phrase and you can apply it to absolutely any training that I do. Your mind reacts to the words and images that you feed it. And that also applies to this area of self-forgiveness. So let's have a look at this, and I'll try and keep it short. You can just take the points. I've written them out so you can see them. You can take a photo of this. You can write these down. It's very, very simple. So the outcome of anything and everything depends on who you become. Make a note of that. Think about that, and think about how what you are doing in your life would change if you thought about it differently. And who do you then need to become to execute what you are thinking about? Because you can't do it as the person you are now. The person that you are now is doing what you are doing now. I can't achieve my enormous goals for this year by staying as I am. I've got a lot of personal growth, development. I've already done huge amounts, but it's limitless. You know, it's never ending. Once you start, you just reach a point and you just keep moving, keep growing, keep moving, keep growing. And it's fun and it's exciting as well as being terrifying. It's all those things. And it absolutely proves that to your mind, anxiety and excitement are the same thing. And it just depends how you process them. Okay, so think about that. Now, self-forgiveness. Think about this. Your mind reacts to the words and images that you feed it. So if you are caught up in things in your life, past instances, current instances, situations you're in, you've been in, things you've done, awful relationships, my God, most of us have them, things that people did to you in the past, or even things that you did to other people, the things that you ruminate on that are constantly going round and round and round in your mind. And here's a fact as well. When your mind isn't focused on a task, its job is to remind you of all the things that you have to resolve. That's why sometimes you just say, why can't I stop thinking about this? Why can't I get this out of my mind? Because it's unresolved. And when you start looking at it, often you will find that what is unresolved is your forgiveness of yourself. It's the hardest thing. And I tell you why it's the hardest thing. because you know that in some way, on some level, you were responsible. Now, I'm not talking about if you're kidnapped and tortured, but those kind of things are very, very small. If you're a child and you have sexual abuse in your background, you are not responsible for what happened to you. But as adults, what we are responsible for is the way that we process the things that happened to us when we were powerless and vulnerable, how we process them, and how we then evolve into our adult lives. That's our responsibility. But the things we are responsible for are the things that happen to us as adults and the things that we also do as adults. Now, that takes me on to, I am going to talk about a second big point here. But the first thing I want you to do to work on this thing of self-forgiveness. And most of us have something we need to forgive ourselves for, especially if you've been in an unhealthy, abusive relationship, or lots of them. You've got lots of self-forgiveness to do because you'll be blaming yourself, and even if you're not, even if you really are you're angry at the other person, you know that you allowed this, and that's what you need to look at. So what I want you to do is to recall these instances, or an instance, something specific. It might even be a long relationship. You might want to work on, say you had this 10-year relationship and it was all awful, and you're thinking, how the hell did that happen to me? Then focus on that relationship, all right? So an instance, a situation, a circumstance. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at, within that situation, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do that allowed it, that made it worse? What were the bad things that you did? How badly did you treat someone? How did it affect the people that weren't even involved? How did you treat them because of how you were being treated? All these different things that I want you to go through and to have a look at in this situation that you're looking at. And maybe it won't be as complex as that. Maybe it will just be an argument you had with someone or a decision you made. This is very personal, but this structure can be applied to everything. Everything that you need to work through and to forgive yourself for can be applied to this, okay? So, and then have a look, who got hurt? Who got hurt how? Was it you? Was it someone else? Was it someone completely innocent? So often it's our kids. They're the innocents that get hurt in the things that we do wrong as adults. And we have to accept that. One of the big things we need to do as adults is to own any damage that we've done to our kids and do our best to put that right with them. That's a really big step. We need to do that. Okay, so, but then what I want you to do, once you've got all this down, and I know you're going to feel bad about yourself. I've done this exercise. You feel bad about yourself as you're going through it, but this is about growth and healing. And you're going to look at it and go, oh my God, I was a really terrible person. I can't believe I did this. That's not who I wanted to be. That's not what I wanted to do. But here's the second part, the second really, really important part. I want you to understand, to look at, to analyze your past. Because your past and your present and how you have behaved in any and every situation since you were a child is linked to your past. It's your past experiences, it's what you learned, what you taught, what you believed about yourself. And what you learnt was a healthy relationship. What you learnt was a correct response. What you learnt was acceptable. So what I want you to have a look at was, what was the past experience, pattern or behavior that sat behind what happened here? Okay, now I'm going to talk to you a lot more about this next week. Next week, I'm dealing specifically with narcissism. Okay, because it's coming up a lot. I've got a lot of people want me to talk about it. So I'm doing that next week. But just for illustration purposes, let me just explain to you. So here, let me tell you what I was working on for myself. And most of you won't have stuff this big, okay? So what I was working on was the fact that for nearly 25 years, I have been in a covert narcissistic marriage. That's huge. And there are so many things that happened that were just not conducive to my happiness within that. And I allowed them. And when over the last couple of years, when I've really understood this, been looking at this, studying this, fixing it, fixing myself, healing myself, when I was looking at that, my anger at myself, I cannot tell you, it was far more. Yes, I was angry at him, but I was furious at myself for allowing it. And the forgiveness came when I got to here. And I spent a long time looking at my past. And my past is not a secret. I talk about it. So my past is where 10 years ago, I was suicidal from, I've always attributed it to the bullying that happened that when I was at school, because I knew that was a big issue for me throughout my life. But what I didn't acknowledge so much was that everything that I thought about myself, that I was unimportant, I was irrelevant, I had no self-confidence, no self-esteem, that I wasn't lovable, that I was just tolerated, all of those things. Can you imagine? I took those feelings into a covert narcissistic marriage. And everything I thought about myself was then compounded by his actions. So I was someone that he could control. I was someone that he could be as he was with. I would allow it. I wouldn't allow it now. See, the outcome of anything and everything depends on who you become. I am no longer who I was here. And this is where my forgiveness has come. My forgiveness has come from understanding not just my pattern and my behavior that caused me to be in this situation and to allow it, but together and separately, we have both done a huge amount of work on what was his past, his pattern, his behaviors that caused him to behave like that. Do you see where this all ties in, this whole thing? And the amazing thing is, because of the work we've done, and it has been really significant, it's been challenging, it's been hard, we've spent time together, time apart, and we've been doing it all based on what's best for us. And what was I going to say about that? Sorry, I've forgotten myself now. Yes, was the understanding that the role that his past played, but also this depends on who you become. He's not the same person anymore either. So I'm not the same person. He's not the same person. So what we have is not the toxic melting pot that it was. Okay, we're still working things through, but it is completely different to how it was even a year ago, because we are constantly focusing here, because he has things to forgive me for too, but I had to see what was driving my behavior and what was driving his behavior, and it has led to all this self-forgiveness. So what I want to ask you around that, so I want you to do this where you recall the situations, the circumstances. Thank you. I can see you like this. And I want you to look at the influence of the past, not just on you, but on the other people involved, the other person. If you've got someone who's treated you really badly in a marriage, in a relationship, what was your past that allowed it? And what was their past that was driving them? And then that gets you to see things in a completely different way, and it allows this forgiveness. Because up until here, I was telling myself all these things about myself. Oh, I was really stupid. I was ignorant. I can't tell you, so many negatives. We are our own worst critics, by the way. If you haven't heard me say that before, you would never let anyone else talk to you the way you talk to yourself. Okay, so, but all these negative things about myself all the time. But here's the thing, your mind reacts to the words and images you feed it. You become what you believe you are. So this moves us on. Once you've done this exercise, what are you telling yourself about yourself? Because of all of this, what are you telling yourself about who you are, what you will become, what you should do because of your past? Okay, and then I want you to change it. And everything that you are telling yourself that is negative, I want you to turn to a positive, because who you were when you allowed this is not who you are now. And if you haven't done the deep inner work, if you haven't done the healing, if you haven't done the growth, then that is what you need to do. If you can't honestly, like if I was to write down loads of negative things about myself now, all the things I've done in the past, the experiences, all the stuff in my marriage, I couldn't write them down anymore. I don't believe them. I know they're not true. But I would have no problem filling this page with positive things about myself because of where I've shifted to, because of the work that I've done. My husband would have a lot more problem because he's way further behind in his work than I am. But obviously that's all related to the work that I do. Plus I was the one that started this. I started this work. He's a long way behind me, but he's still making great progress. So I want you to get to the point where you can look at all the negatives and say that you can turn them easily into positives about yourself, because that is where the self-forgiveness comes, in understanding that you are no longer the person that would allow this. So you can forgive yourself. You can forgive yourself because something was driving who you were, what you allowed and what you let be, and that does not apply anymore because you've shifted. So that's where you'll know, when you can honestly say all of these positive things about yourself. Okay, so I thought that was very important to do today. As I say, next week I'm focusing on narcissism, and we will be bearing all of this in mind as we work through it. If you'd like to join my group, Helping You Heal from Trauma and Abuse, I'm going to put the link. Plus, as always, if it's amazing the way these things go in such incredible stages, and the amount of work I've been doing lately on narcissism and self-forgiveness with people, those things go hand in hand. But if this is a question for you, if you really want to explore this, how would the outcome, how would my future look different if I changed, if I forgave myself, if I forgave someone else, if I could see myself in a different way? Then as always, I'll post the link in the comments and you can book in for a free 30-minute session with me and find out about the work that I do to shift you from where you are now, whatever trauma, abuse, whatever you're dealing with, to who you want to be. So I hope that helps you. As always, leave comments, leave questions, and you guys, you know by now everything that gets left. If it's a question or if you need more information, I always answer, and I appreciate you watching. I appreciate the engagement, and I just hope that what I share is really helpful to you. All right, thanks so much.